Eurobox presents Double Trip Threes, written by C.P. Carrington. Double Trip Threes is a gripping, fast-paced thriller that seamlessly blends political intrigue, international espionage, cyber warfare, and human vulnerability into a story that feels frighteningly plausible. Picking up from the dramatic aftermath of The Ghost of Carter's Caravan, the novel follows Richard Melrose as he is first into a new identity in rural Somerset. Trading London's intensity for the deceptive quiet of countryside life. But peace is fragile. Let's welcome the author, who's our special guest today to present his new book. Hi, Chris. Welcome, and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you, and good morning.
So, this novel moves between a quiet rural England on one side and high-level geopolitical tension. What was the inspiration to start the setting?
The inspiration of the book actually came from a dream. I woke up in the middle of the night with just this very strong image in my head, and I got up that night and just started writing a book, and it flowed from there. And a lot of it is drawn from my experience in working in politics, the media around the world. So I've drawn in a lot of my own experiences, and it's all set within a kind of central concept of taking that image and wondering why someone found themselves in that place at that time, and what reason was she there?
There is a very interesting theme which is highlighted to the reader when there is this Willow's decision to intervene in nuclear system which raises complex ethical questions too. Do you see her as a hero, maybe a risk taker, or I don't know, something in between?
Well, I mean, a central element of the book is faith, and faith can mean many things to many people. And the reason why Willow chooses to become a protector is because she and her husband want to do something good, and they find themselves in a situation where they think they can do something that will serve future generations. Whether you call that heroic or not, I think, again, that's down to the reader. But it raises an interesting question within the concept of the book, without going into, great depth and detail. The people that she works for are only interested in saving humanity as a whole, whereas as a human being, Willow is looking to see what she can do, what part she can play in protecting humanity as she sees it. So in a sense, that's the construct of the decisions that she and her husband make. Also,
the assassins are portrayed in your book with realism, also a psychological nuance. How did you approach this, writing characters who operate in, moral darkness without making them caricatures, which could be a risk?
When you say assassins, do you mean the Russian group?
Yep.
Okay, so that was a construct around things which I think people, we hear lots of news stories about people disappearing because certain regimes don't like what they say and what they do. And again, from my experience of politics and geopolitics going back 30, 40 years, we've seen the fall of the Berlin Wall and the changes that occurred in Eastern Europe. And you see those influences of a society that was very, very structured and then broke down, and then what led to that. And as I say, as someone who's been quite heavily involved in politics for many decades, it's quite interesting to see how a society a culture breaks down, and what that could, what that can actually lead to eventually.
With all this said, who you think is the target reader for this book, and what would you like to tell them now that you have the possibility to?
Well, it's quite interesting. When I started this, I had a very good friend who has 2 teenage daughters, and then I have an elderly mother in her 80s. So I wanted to write a book that I thought both those demographics might actually enjoy reading. So it's very purposely written as being like a very fast-paced page turner. On purpose, I wrote the chapters very short because I know, again, of my experience of reading, I tend to read when I go to bed, and then I think you always find yourself, you look at how long the next chapter is, almost says how, do I read another chapter, or is the next one too long?
So you worried for your reader.
So what I wanted to do was create that fast pace so people kept turning the page over, but I wanted something not darker, but more, more thought-provoking at its heart. So the central theme is quite thought-provoking about what it means, what faith means to people, very, very, very existential elements of human existence, but at the same time, something which is a fast-turning thriller. So I hope the demographic is wide as a result of that. I don't know whether I've done something which then no one likes, because it's trying to appeal to too many people. But again, I write almost in consciousness. So when I started, I always wanted to write a book. I have had many ideas over many years. This image came to me and I thought, well, this is the idea I start with. So I started writing. All of a sudden, I found myself at 70,000 words, which is why it then became a trilogy, because I felt there's so much more in it to say.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you again for your time today. We wish you best luck with your book.
Thank you very much.
Sharp, intelligent, and cinematic in scope, this is a thriller that feels alarmingly close to reality. Double Trip Threes, written by C.P. Carrington, is now available in bookstores and digital platforms. It's a publication by Eurobooks.